the name of Allah, who came in the person of Master R.I.P, to whom all holy praises are forever due, I bear witness that there is no God but Allah. And I bear witness that the most honorable Elijah Muhammad is his living and exalted Christ. And I further bear witness that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is their divine reminder in our midst, the apostle of God. And for me, the proof that Allah did not stop intervening in the affairs of the black man and woman in 1975. In their name, I greet you, brothers and sisters. Assalamu alaikum. I pray that all have had and are having healthy and safe holidays. If you, like me and my children, have been victimized by the flu bug, I pray for you a speedy recovery. I have been bedridden for this last week in Atlanta, Georgia. But Friday, when I got the call from one of my heroes in Islam, that she would like me to introduce her, I got better quick. So we jumped in the car and got on the road, and here we are. But forgive me, I must be before you with a bottle of water, so I'm not hacking throughout. It is an honor to be back at Mosque Mariam. But before I get to that, I need your help, family. The last time I had the honor to come before you, afterwards, watching the video, I noticed something. My bow tie was awfully crooked. Not desiring to repeat that scandal, my bow tie gate, help your brother out. Am I good? I'm good? Praise belongs to Allah. You know what they say. Once, shame on me. Twice, shame on you. Right? I appreciate you being your brother's keeper and keeping me crispy. Right? Keep me from coming again before the world on your behalf looking raggedy. Right? That diminishes our brand. Praise belongs to Allah. Now that that is out of the way, Dr. Ava, I heard a news report 2 days ago. The community of Newtown, Connecticut, made a very strange appeal to the nation. They are asking the nation to stop sending gifts and donations to Newtown. They said they have no more room for all of the outpouring of sympathy. I would like to appeal to America. If you still sympathize with the loss of child life, then don't stop donating, just redirect those donations to Chicago, Illinois. This is our Sandy Hook. Send those donations to Newark, New Jersey, Los Angeles, California. But America has been indifferent to the loss of young black life.
That's right.
And the American government has been complicit in the slaughter of black youth. And so now, the last 15 years, with Columbine and its copycats, the Amos slaughter and Virginia Tech and now Sandy Hook, the God of justice is giving white America the blood of their babies to drink like sweet wine. And so the president is now serious about gun control. Dear Mr. President, do you have a plan for gun control in the black community? I do. I have a solution to the problem of gun control in the black community. Y'all ready? Every black organization should charter a bus. Fill that bus. Pack it with your friendly neighborhood gangbangers. And then bus them to the nearest theater to see Django Unchained. Bus your local gangbangers to see Django Unchained. See, Dr. Ava, when I was able to get out of bed to go see that movie, not knowing what to expect, I swear I felt what white folks had to feel when they were watching The Help. See, The Help is white folks daydreaming. Django Unchained is black folks like me daydreaming. See, I'm not a movie critic. I can speak intelligently neither about spaghetti westerns or even blaxploitation films. All I know is that as an angry black man who knows precisely why I'm angry, I saw my most recurrent fantasies play out on that screen in Django Unchained. Yeah. You say, Dr. Wesley, do you fantasize about killing white folks? Is a non-wheat saltine cracker white? You damn right. I dream about the God of justice exacting vengeance on the perpetrators of the greatest crime against humanity has ever seen. I do so dream. Brother Spike Lee doesn't like Django Unchained. He said it disrespects our ancestors. Well, I don't know about that. But dear Brother Spike, X disrespected the living hope of black people. The most honorable Elijah Muhammad and the honorable Minister Farrakhan. So while you are disappointed you got snubbed at the awards show, if I had a vote, I'd be voting for Django Unchained. Django Unchained got my vote because this is possibly the final piece of a perfect storm raging against white supremacy. Because, see, we've had a generation of killers with a bloodlust, a natural-born bloodlust. And you need that if you're going to topple white supremacy. We've had divine leadership that could guide that army. But black folks are visual people. We don't believe until we see. And see, these black bloodlusters, we can tell them that you need to redirect your aggression against white folks, but unless we see that, we don't believe that. See, Django Unchained allow us to see what retribution for white folks look like. So this is what I suggest. We bust the gangbangers to the nearest theater to see Django Unchained. And then as they leave, we have a complimentary gift for them. FOI greet them as they exit the theater. And we present to each and every one of them. Now, your brother, I didn't get my PhD in fashion design, so don't judge me, right? This is makeshift, got the fancy staples and the tape, the stylish tape, but you get the point. Let gangbangers, let bloodlusters walk around the hood saying, I am Django. The guns would dry up in the black community overnight. The guns would disappear overnight with black gangbangers screaming, I am Django. So, I have the task of the opportunity of presenting to us the Nation of Islam's resident Django. Our Kill Whitey specialist. Oh, Dr. Wesley. Don't get your boxes all in a bunch, black folks. And white folks, don't get scared and run. You should be scared, but you shouldn't all of a sudden get scared today. You should have been scared for 4 centuries, knowing that Frankenstein called the nigger that you created eventually will turn against you. Dr. Ava Muhammad is our Kill Whitey specialist. She makes killing whitey a science and an art. What do I mean by that? We're Muslims. We don't advocate, condone, or endorse physical violence against any human being. That means you too, white folks. But I'm talking about intellectual violence against a mind that's damaging to black people and white people because it's born from the lie of white supremacy and black inferiority. That mind must be killed, and Dr. Ava Muhammad, every time she approaches a podium, it's pop, 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 pop. Let me present to you Sister Django, Dr. Ava Muhammad.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Whew. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, We give him praise and thanks for his mercy and goodness to the members of the human family of our planet, that whenever any member of the family strays from his straight path, before he punishes, he always raises from that people a messenger or a prophet to whom he gives what is called divine revelation, and by means of which he guides that people back to his straight path and once again into his divine favor. As Muslims, we believe in all of the prophets of God, and we make no distinction between them. We believe in all of the scripture brought by his prophets and in the Holy Quran, which is the book of scripture of the Muslims. It reads, there are prophets and messengers that you know, and there are prophets and messengers that you do not know, that were not necessarily mentioned in the Quran. In the name of all of those prophets, wise men and sages that Allah has sent to guide human beings, we thank Allah for Musa, or Moses, and the Torah, the Israelite prophets who gave us what is called the Old Testament. We thank Allah for Isa, or Jesus, and his disciples. Jesus gave us the gospel, or Injil, and his apostles gave us what is called the New Testament. We thank Allah for the prophet Muhammad ibn Abdullah. Peace be upon all of these worthy servants of Allah. Through Prophet Muhammad, we receive the final revelation to this world, the Holy Quran. I could not thank Allah enough for his merciful intervention in our affairs, Black people here in America and the Western world, in the person of Master Farad Muhammad, whom we believe is the great Mahdi. He came among us, and he raised from among us in America his messenger Messiah, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And he gave him a weighty message that would lift the Black man of America, the Black man of the Caribbean, the Black man of Africa, the Black man of the Isles of the Pacific. And in that message is also a message for all of humanity. I thank Allah every day for the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. But I, standing here as a lowly witness and one who can only testify, I would never have been the beneficiary that I am today of the life-giving, life-saving body of knowledge of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad were it not for one man. Yes, I had heard of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. I knew of the Nation of Islam, which I admired from a distance. I heard of a man with a fez, and I saw his picture in a newspaper called Muhammad Speaks, and he had the sun, the moon, the stars on his head. I knew this man taught Black people to do for self, how to eat, to live, but I had no more than a bit of information maybe for Black History Month. But then one day, as I struggled through chemotherapy treatments for cancer in New York City as a young lawyer, I was introduced by way of a poster in a subway station in Harlem to a man. That man had a name I had never heard, Farrakhan. And when I went out to the meeting in New York City, that man referred to himself as a student of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And when he spoke, there was healing in his words. There was life for me in his words. There was proof in his words that God had come and intervened in our affairs. So I thank Allah and his messenger Messiah for that man who is in our midst today, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. I greet all of you in the words of peace of Assalamu alaikum. I want to thank my wonderful and powerful colleagues. I want to thank Brother Jeffrey Muhammad, Sister Kenya Muhammad, and Brother Dr. Wesley Muhammad. I guess we're going to war for sure. It's on now. All praise is due to Allah. It is really a great honor to serve as a laborer and to be a believer in the Nation of Islam and to work with my colleagues every day. When I opened up just now, I opened up with words lifted from several messages delivered by Minister Farrakhan. You will notice the minister always says, Master Farrakhan Muhammad came among us. He raised from among us, or from our midst. He always says that. What is that? Raised from among us. To be among or to be in the midst of is to be in the middle of, or surrounded by, or in the course of. What was it that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was in the midst of or among? Who are or were these people who Master Farrakhan Muhammad came and raised him from among? Today, I want to give you, in this brief time, a real picture in your mind as to who these people were and are, that one man came among these people and raised one man from among these people. Before I do that, just a brief reading from the Holy Quran. Chapter 15, the Rock. And in these verses that I'm going to read, you see the beginning of a chapter where Allah is warning the opponents of the messenger, the opponents of the message, of their pending doom. He is letting his messenger know he will be triumphant, and he is letting the opponents know to leave him alone. Section 1, the Quran is guarded. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful. I, Allah, am the seer. These are the verses of the book and of a Quran that makes manifest. Often will those who disbelieve wish they were Muslims. Leave them to eat and enjoy themselves, and let false hope beguile them, for they will soon know. And never did we destroy a town, but it had a decree made known. No people can hasten their doom, nor can they postpone it. And they say, oh, you to whom the reminder is revealed, you are indeed mad. Why bringest you not the angels to us if you are of the truthful? We send not angels, but with truth. And then they would not be respited. Surely we have revealed the reminder, and surely we are its guardian. And certainly we sent messengers before you among the sects of yore. And there never came a messenger to them, but they mocked him. Thus do we make it enter the hearts of the guilty. They believe not in it. and the example of the ancients has gone before. And even if we open to them a gate of heaven and they keep on ascending into it, they would say, only our eyes have been covered over. Rather, we are an enchanted people. Beloved, between 1915 and 1970, remember, he came among us, raised from among us. Between 1915 and 1970, there was a great exodus that took place right within the borders of the continental United States. All of this talk about immigration, but one of the longest migrations in time, covering 5 decades, is the great untold story of 20th century American history. 6 million black people fled from the South, running to cities in the North, the East Coast, the Midwest, the West Coast. The magnitude of the Great Migration has never been fully recognized and certainly not fully understood. This is not only by white America, but by us. And we are not taught of it at all in the educational system of America. The suffering, as is recorded in secret relationship between blacks and Jews, was unimaginable after the federal government withdrew oversight of the so-called Reconstruction South in 1877. That allowed Southern whites to resurrect the caste system, not class system, caste system of slavery. This was and is a system based solely on race. This system in post-Reconstruction South absolutely prohibited any movement of a black man or woman into American society in any way, shape, or form. When a black man, very light-skinned black man, named Homer Plessy, bought a first-class ticket on the East Louisiana Railroad in June of 1894, he took an empty seat in the white-only car. He was told to get up and move to the colored section of the train. He said, "No, I bought a first-class ticket. There's no one in the seat. I'm staying here." They called the police. They arrested him and took him off the train. He sued the railroad. In 1896, the seminal case of Plessy versus Ferguson. In that case, the United States Supreme Court, the highest court in America, upheld Jim Crow. You hear me? The U.S. Supreme Court ruled 8-1 that separate but equal accommodations are constitutional. That ruling would stand for the next 60 years. That case sent black people in the South not just back into slavery, but worse. Because at least when we were property, the owner had some interest in protecting his property. We didn't even have that protection now. After Plessy versus Ferguson, white politicians openly campaigned for office on anti-black platforms, winning seats all over the U.S. Senate, winning places in the governor's mansion. In 1903, Mississippi elected James K. Vardaman its governor. James Vardaman called himself the white supremacy candidate. He said, and I quote, "If necessary, every Negro in the state will be lynched." He was vehemently opposed to black children attending any kind of school. He said, quote, "The only effect of Negro education is to spoil a good field hand and make your cook insolent." After he completed his term as governor, Mississippi sent him to the U.S. Senate. Lynchings in the early 20th century were as popular as Major League Baseball and professional basketball and the National Football League are today. You hear me? Newspapers alerted readers to the time and place of upcoming lynchings. These were sports spectacles that sometimes lasted for hours. Black men and women were routinely tortured and mutilated, hanged, and burned alive. The crowds numbered sometimes in the tens of thousands. One of the most lucrative businesses in the South was selling postcards commemorating lynchings. Now, the photos we're going to show you now are all postcards, souvenirs of lynchings, and these are just a handful. And could we have number 5 and number 6 put up? Are we ready to put the pictures up? Now, number 5 is a postcard. And on this postcard, the writer is telling the recipient about what's on the other side. And the writer is surprised and shocked that what was done in the public. So that's the front. Now let's look at the back. This is the postcard. These are the Jones brothers who were lynched July 31st, 1908 in Logan County, Kentucky. The writer again expressed shock that this was done in such a bold fashion. It's 4 young black men hanging by their neck. Let's look at number 7. Now, you can't see it very well, but you will when you look at this closer. But you do see the crowd of white people up on the bridge. Hanging from the bridge are Laura Nelson, a black woman, and her son. They're hanging from a bridge in Oklahoma in 1911. Her son, a young teenager, was charged with killing a deputy sheriff. What had happened, a posse of white men had stormed their cabin. They were looking for stolen meat. The boy, in defense of his home and his mother, fired a shotgun. The mother, Laura Nelson, tried to take the blame. She said, "I did it," to spare her son. They were both arrested in jail, and a mob broke in the jail, dragged them out, and this is the result. Number 8, please. It's a black woman. This is Laura Nelson, a close-up. Now remember, these are all postcards. Like when you go to Disney World and you send a picture of you and Mickey Mouse. Or you go to the Bahamas or the Caribbean and send a picture of you on the beach. This is what white people sent around in the 20th century to show the event. Oh, I went to the playoffs. They went to the lynching. The paper said of this sister, and she was 35 years old, she was described in a news account as, quote, small in stature, very black, and vicious. Number 9, please. This is Lee Hall. He was shot in both hips and then made to walk nearly a mile to the dump where he was found the next morning, handcuffed with a rope around his neck. They didn't hang him, they just did that as a symbolic gesture because they killed him by riddling his body with bullets. And they severed both his ears. He has no ears. Number 11. This is Thomas Shipp and Abram Smith. They mercifully had already been mauled and beaten to death before they were hung. Look at the people. Look at the crowd. Because I'm trying to get to a point. The photographer spent 10 days and nights printing copies of the picture he took and sold them at what was then a very high price of 50 cents. This was August 7th, 1930, the year Master R.I.P. Muhammad came. This is right next door in Marion, Indiana. News accounts said thousands of white people with guns and picks, torches, axe handles yelled, "Get those goddamn niggers!" And we're going to look a little closer at the word nigger today. Number 12. This is Stacy, Reuben Stacy. Little young white girl smirking. Look at this nigger. Little young girls there. Reuben Stacy had the misfortune. This is in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. You see these little white girls watching. Well, a white woman said Reuben Stacy assaulted her. Later, an investigation revealed that Reuben Stacy, a homeless tenant farmer, means he went from farm to farm looking for work. He was so hungry, he went and knocked on the door of a house asking for a little food. The woman admitted later he didn't touch her, but when she saw the face of a black man at her door, it scared her to death. So she screamed and said she was attacked, and that's the result. Number 14. Many of you have seen or should have seen this photo. If you have any history, interest in our history, then you've seen this photo. It's been reprinted in countless historical books, magazines, newspapers. This is William Brown. This is in Omaha, Nebraska. So it wasn't limited to the South. This is September 28th, 1919. This brother was accused of molesting a white girl. They arrested him. The mob dragged him out of the courthouse jail, mutilated him, and burned his body to a crisp. This photo sold in 1919 for $2 each. That's serious money in 1919. And number 4, look at the crowd. You can barely see the nude body of the victim. He's in the center with, you see the smoke. But look at the crowd. They couldn't get them all in the picture. 15,000. This is May of 1916. That's 18-year-old Jesse Washington. He wasn't killed before they set him on fire. They burned him alive. And they chanted, "Burn, nigger, burn," as he was lowered into the flames. Now, beloved, from 1889 to 1930, a black person was lynched every 4 days that we know of, according to records that we have, every 4 days. What were their crimes? Let me give you some of the written on-the-book laws in Jim Crow South that could get you killed, tortured to death. One offense was jumping labor contract. One was poisoning mules, stealing 75 cents. And one serious offense that got you hung was, quote, making boastful remarks. Another crime was, quote, trying to act like a white person. At least 66 people were lynched for, quote, insult to a white person. And all of you that love reality shows, this is our great-grandparents' reality. Anybody, man, woman, or child, could walk out the cabin and down the road and never be seen again. Or you might come past them hanging from a tree. He raised from among us. If we could have number 2, Brother Troy, thank you so much. And thank you for this, and Brother Ahmed and the team. 1905, the national bestseller in America was a novel, work of fiction, entitled The Klansman. It became a film in 1915. In fact, as we prepare for the Oscars, as Dr. Wesley pointed out, this was America's first major motion picture right here. For all those that want to say, oh, slavery and 1865. Why y'all keep talking about it? We coming on up. This is 1915. The Birth of a Nation. The hottest thing on the market. This film portrayed black men as savage beasts, ignorant, lusting after white women, and taking over the country. We want our country back. That's what they're saying, right? The minister asked, who took it? This film revived a dying Ku Klux Klan. Instead of outlaws, the Klan was now viewed as the protector of white supremacy and marched through the major cities of America on the 4th of July. Southern legislatures started passing laws to regulate every aspect of black people's lives after Plessy versus Ferguson. It forbid this is what Jim Crow does. Jim Crow forbids any contact whatsoever between the races except a master-slave connection. Every southern state, now we're in the 20th century now, every southern state outlawed you or I sitting next to a white person on public transportation. In many cities, we had a curfew. Not because of a situation. The curfew was for you if you have melanin. You had to be off the street in almost every town in the South by 10 p.m. In Palm Beach, Florida, you better not be seen after 8 unless you were on an assignment from a white employer and could prove it. Every building that they could do it in, they had a white elevator and a colored elevator. And our elevators were the freight elevators in the back of the building. Every place where you wait, there was a white waiting room and a colored waiting room. When you went to the hospital, if you could get in, there was a white ambulance and a colored ambulance. When you died, you went to the cemetery in a colored hearse. When a white person approached as you walked down the street, you had to step off the sidewalk. If you were lucky to be driving a car, you know, many of you drove here today. Well, if you're driving a car in Jim Crow South, you could not pass a white motorist. This is against the law. You could not pass a white motorist no matter how slow they were driving. You could not contradict any white person anytime for any reason. You could not speak to a white person unless spoken to. You might lose your life if you committed the crime of acting like a white person, as one brother did in Mobile, Alabama. He was lynched because he paid a utility bill and he had the audacity to ask for a receipt. Black workers and white workers could not go up and down the staircase at the same time. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. Every year, black people found themselves in a world shrinking smaller and smaller, sinking lower in status than slavery, if that were possible. There's no precise record of when the wave of migrants began in earnest, because we had been escaping the South, as you know, since we got here and there. But black historians and scholars place it sometime during World War I. The North had a labor shortage, and there was an abundance of workers, black people in the South, trying to escape the hellhole that was the South. I haven't even talked about our inability to get work. And if you did work, it was identical to slavery. As a sharecropper, they sounded the horn before the sun came up, and you better be out in that field. But one of the earliest recorded events was February 5th, 1916. And it was recorded and spoken of in the Chicago Defender. The Chicago Defender found itself, as time passed, cast into the role of agitator, as well as record keeper of the movement. But on February 5th, 1916, having whispered and planned for months, several hundred black families quietly slipped out of Selma, Alabama. Oh yeah, now if you decide, I want to go to New York, I want to live in Los Angeles, your only consideration, you got to consider finances, what your plans are, your goals, family, etc. Outside of that, if you want to go, you go. You fly, you take a train, you drive, you get a ride. You didn't leave the South like that. You sneaked out of there. If that peckerwood caught you trying to leave, You're a dead man, you're a dead woman. And so families, for the most part, left in pieces. Oftentimes the men would go first and then come back and get the woman, and sometimes they didn't come back. Families broke up. Some stayed together, but a lot of families broke up in the trauma of trying to get out. So you had to slip out of there in 1915, 1930, even the 1940s, like we did in the days of Harriet Tubman. Now, this was a leaderless movement. There was no Moses, no Joshua, no Dr. King. This movement had to be guided by God himself, because the one man he would ultimately raise up to lead us to freedom, the spiritual leader, the man that would speak for us, to us, and represent us to our enemy and bring us directly from God, a life-giving, life-saving body of knowledge. He was among the 6 million. In Cordell County, Georgia, October 7th, 1897, in a place called Sandersville, a petite but very intense woman named Marie. And brother, I'm so sorry I forgot the number on the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's mother's photo. If we could bring that up. This is a later photo of her. Just a stunningly beautiful woman. But she gave birth that day. All praises due to Allah. Thank you. She gave birth to the 7th of her 13 children. Her husband, William, if we could bring his picture up. Her husband, William, was a sharecropper and a Baptist minister. The father of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. All praise is due to Allah for the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, for his mother and father. It has been said by family members that she, while pregnant, saw a light in the window of her bedroom, and she heard a voice telling her her unborn son would be a messenger of God. She was frightened by that experience and went to her father, Rufus, the grandfather of this baby, the next day out at the barn, and he said to her, "Name the child Elijah." Young Elijah taught himself to read from the Bible. He never went beyond the 4th grade level in Georgia's rural school system. And at 19, he was working as a plow boy. At 21, he eloped with 18-year-old Clara Clarden. Now, why did they elope? Well, her father owned a little bit of land, and he was opposed to his daughter's marriage to a sharecropper's son. But after they married, this young man, Elijah, and the family name was Poole, he went to her father and promised him he would give her a good life. And yeah, that was an understatement. In 1923, Elijah Poole joined the great exodus from the South. His father, William, his older brother, Sam, and he went to Detroit, seeking work in the blooming auto industry. His father, William, later said it was urgent for him to get his sons out of the South. Just before they left, a white girl charged a young black man with rape. She later recanted her story. Even so, a white mob burned him alive. He was on the ground burning, and he tried to scoop up some dirt and ash and stuff it in his mouth to escape the pain. And every time he did that, they'd kick the dirt out of his hand. So these three men, William and his two sons, Sam and Elijah, as I told you earlier, families often sent an advance party to the north. Once they secured employment at the Chevrolet plant, they sent for their wives and children. The stock market crash and the Great Depression left that family very impoverished in the early 1930s. And one day, some ladies who knew Clara Poole brought a man to the house. This man was known as a peddler of silk fabric. Included in his inventory was this lovely red cloth that the sisters were starting to put in their windows. The man asked Clara, Mother Clara, we know her as now, he said, "Where is brother?" Referring to the husband. She said, "He's in the house," and he told her, "Both of you are invited to a meeting on Sunday." That man we now know as Master R.I.P. Muhammad, and he gave a lecture that would change not only Elijah's life, but our lives forever. Now, brothers and sisters, and I don't plan to be long, and it's as though Brother Dr. Wesley and I are on the same page. He talked about a perfect storm. There's a perfect storm that has come together. And at the center of it is the man born to lead us in our final push to freedom. But today's message, the title, One Man, that idea came to me one night when I was watching a documentary. The documentary was about James Meredith. 50 years ago, this year, 2012, 1962, James Meredith was the first black man, first black person to attend the University of Mississippi. Now, to walk into the University of Mississippi, I'd rather walk into the fire of hell, because it's the same thing. You talk about nerve. When you see that documentary, if you ever have time to watch, and you can Google everything now, but there's an incredible film. And when you see the violence, beloved, that erupted out of white folks, the resistance that they mounted to the admission of a single black man into that school, which they call Ole Miss. It is like the vanguard of the Confederacy. A lot of Confederate soldiers came out of there. Now, James Meredith actually was a serviceman in the Air Force. They accepted his application happily when he applied, until the registrar found out he was black and passed out and had a fit. They quickly rejected his admission. But James Meredith wasn't going to be stopped. he sued. And you talk about a perfect storm. He went to the NAACP, and at that time, who was the chief counsel for the Legal Defense Fund but none other than Thurgood Marshall? And he said, I'll be happy to take your case. So they went to federal court, they won, because Brown versus Board of Education a few years earlier in 1954 had found that separate accommodations or separate facilities are inherently unequal, and it forced or ordered integration. Well, when James Meredith went to register at Ole Miss, the governor of Mississippi came out. He crawled out from under the rock, Ross Barnett, and personally blocked the door. He said in a statewide television broadcast, he assured the people of the great state of Mississippi, quote, Mississippi will not surrender to the evil and illegal forces of tyranny. No school will be integrated in Mississippi as long as I am your governor. He went on to call Meredith's attempt to enter the school our greatest crisis since the war between the states. In the end, President John F. Kennedy had to send in 127 deputy marshals under the Chief U.S. Marshal J.P. McShane. And if you go on the internet on the U.S. Marshal website where they recruit people, the first thing they boast about is how they got James Meredith into the University of Mississippi. That's the kind of resistance that they had to overcome that they're bragging about 50 years later. And the 127 deputy marshals wasn't enough. McShane had to swear in 300 U.S. Border Patrol agents and pull in some more people off the street until they had 538 special deputies. When Meredith was escorted onto the campus, riots set off, resulting in the deaths of 2 students, and 160 deputies were injured. 28 deputies were shot. Once he was admitted, James Meredith had to have 24-hour protection the entire time he was a student. They taunted him, they heckled him, they called him nigger over and over. They threw trash at him, cherry bombs, water balloons. He endured. He graduated with a degree in political science. He went on to a university in Nigeria and got a master's in economics, and then he got a law degree from Columbia University. In 1966, James Meredith embarked on a lone civil rights march from Memphis, Tennessee to Jackson, Mississippi. Barely left Memphis, and he was shot by a sniper. While he was in the hospital, Martin Luther King Jr., Stokely Carmichael, who was the head of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, SNCC, who would later become Kwame Ture, they came and they said, we're going to finish this. And it was during the rallies in the wake of the shooting of James Meredith that Stokely Carmichael first spoke the word black power publicly. James Meredith was born in 1933, the same year as our beloved minister, and he lives in Jackson, Mississippi today. Why would he put himself through this? We have a 3-minute clip that you must hear. I want you to hear him in his own words, especially those who think we live in a post-racial America. Because I think after what he went through, he has a right to say what he's going to say. And there may be a little, I think there's a little advertising in this clip. Can we run this video? You know, they weave these ads in, and they're inseparable. We need to do that with our webcast. But while we're waiting to bring that up, Dr. Wesley talked about a perfect storm. And there is a perfect storm for a cataclysmic event. So brace yourselves. And if we can, do we have the minister's statement? Thank you, sir. While we're waiting to bring that up, I don't know if you read or heard Minister Farrakhan's statement in the wake of the Newtown massacre.
Nashi?
That's the ad, and we'll turn it up when the ad runs. It's a very brief ad. But this is a 79-year-old black man. He's the same age as our beloved minister. And he's the man that because I don't know how many of us would endure that type of battle. But it's always one man. I don't think Allah has any record of raising up committees and panels and groups. You know, I'm not a cult follower, and neither are any of the followers of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad under the direction and guidance of Minister Louis Farrakhan. We ain't no cult followers. All right, there go Turkish Airlines. That's all right. All right, Turkish Airlines. and here we go. Oh, and this was BBC that interviewed Brother Meredith. Naturally, it would be another country. This is him. Uh-oh. Need that audio. And you'll also see
the color line. The rights and privileges thereof, and the reality of enjoying them or not enjoying them. And that's the reason I looked the way I did, because I knew the other side of fear. That if someone was in a situation where they were supposed to be afraid and showed no signs of fear, it would scare the life out of the other side. And I know it was for real, because they were shaking like a leaf on a tree.
They were shaking like a leaf.
My job was finished once I put the President of the United States
If that's all we have, I'll just explain the remainder. Oh, here, okay, it doesn't seem to be working, but you all get the point, and you see the strength in him, and you see all of the military power, the National Guard. I forgot to mention them when I was talking about the marshals. All of this to get one man in school. See, you have to understand the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad are not a race-based teaching. This is a body of knowledge based in universal truth. And in order to understand anything, you have to understand the nature of that thing. And so all that we're talking about now has to do with showing you this ain't never gonna change. Minister Farrakhan said, as long as we live with white people, we will live under white people. And their history, right up to this moment, bears witness to that. Now, Dr. Wesley mentioned their children. See, you have a nation of killers. This is what they do. What I showed you was nothing but the scratching the surface. Considering it fun to burn the flesh off of a human being? Who does that? And worse than that, who wants to live with somebody that does that? Now, Jet magazine, almost 60 years ago, published the mutilated body of 14-year-old Emmett Till at the request of his mother. And it was when Jet magazine put that picture in their book, that's when it aroused a national and global outcry. Now, in 2013, as we go into 2013, the first cover of Jet magazine is Jordan Davis. And they asked the question, is your child next? See, this is a move. I admire Jet magazine. Instead of us seeing Santa Claus or something on the cover, that we are being brought face to face with this baby. And the murder of Jordan Davis, the murder of Trayvon Martin, is the 21st century version of the lynchings. The freedom and ease with which white males gun down black males is stunning. Post-racial. Earlier this month in Cleveland, Ohio, a black man and woman, the police were chasing them for some minor reason. When they stopped them, the police in Cleveland fired 137 rounds of ammunition into their car, killing both of them. That's this month in Cleveland, Ohio. According to reports, at least 110 black people were killed by police in 2012. That's one every 3 days. When Master R.I.P. Muhammad came, we were being lynched one every 4 days. So now, as Dr. Wesley pointed out, see, you got a perfect storm forming. You have the NRA out here. We're staying armed regardless of whom or what. We're going to defend ourselves. See, this unseen enemy that they talk about, it's not these white boys who are mowing down their own kind. It's you. It's your father, your husband, your son, your brother, your baby. You can't get a job that's high level enough. You can't live anywhere insulated enough that's going to save you from this. Now, Quentin Tarantino comes out with Django in the midst of the NRA arming itself. And by the way, Wayne LaPierre, the president of the NRA, who's a prostitute for the gun manufacturers, he comes on and David Gregory says to him, are you telling me that you have a problem with a law that says you cannot have but so many rounds of ammunition in a gun? Why do you need a gun that mows down 40 people at once? Oh, that's not going to make any difference. That's his response. What we have to do is go after these felons, these offenders. Who are the felons? Adam Lanza that mowed down 6-year-olds. You know what kind of beast you have to be to shoot some 6-year-olds who are terrified? They said some of those babies had 11 bullets. They don't even have enough body to hold 11. But that means he tore them to shreds, like they've been doing to us. So you're telling me it wouldn't have been better if he only had 6 bullets? No, because we got to go after these violent offenders. Adam Lanza was not a felon. He didn't have a felony conviction. This nut out here in Colorado who looked like his twin, that's another, you know, there's another whole backstory to Newtown. That peaceful little picket fence town where Sandy Hook's Elementary was across the road from the headquarters of the National Sports Shooting Foundation. Connecticut, the home of the Colt 45 and the Winchester. Little old peaceful Newtown where every block there's a gun repair shop or a gun sale shop or a shooting range. Where everybody's armed to the teeth. One every 4 days in 1930, one every 3 days now. The felony offenders that Wayne LaPierre wants himself and his people armed against is the black man. Thanks to Bill Clinton, 1 out of every 4 black men living is a convicted felon. Most brothers have either been arrested for one reason or another, they've been convicted for one reason or another, they spent time in jail for one reason or another. Nothing has changed. Nothing has changed. So here comes Django. Here's a movie. I don't know what was in Quentin Tarantino's mind. And I know, all of his films are over the top in bloodshed. I mean, you have to be ready for blood sprayed on walls. But I'm going to tell you what, I don't know what the filmmakers had in mind either, or what they're trying to say. But I know what the Quran says. It said they plan, and Allah plans. And Allah is the best of planners. And so as I bring this to a close, what I saw in that movie, every movie has its ups and downs. I'm like Dr. Wesley, I'm not a film critic. But I know there is relief for the black woman in that movie because the black woman needs relief from being the man all the time. Because this white man has created a reverse role, bizarre, crazy world where the woman has to be in charge because he locks the black man out of every single legitimate path to independence, except one that we're going to talk about, close on. The only solution. The best solution. And if it ain't the best, so what? It's the only one. So he said, take it or let it alone. But in this film, which is set in 1858, Jamie Foxx, I'm not going to get too much deep into it, but I would say anybody over 18 should see it. And I agree with Dr. Wesley, the brothers that out here blowing each other away, you need to see the real brutality of slavery. All of this little roots and these little movies that make us look like we're just a handmaiden. We just, how you doing, Master? I'm fine, Nancy. How you doing? Now, you need to get a little taste of what it was really like for men and women to live in slavery. But some have objected to the use of the term nigger in the movie. And they said the word 110 times, according to one person's count. I mean, it was nigger, nigger, nigger. Well, the term nigger is completely and thoroughly intertwined, interwoven into the 400-year reign of terror that comprises the history of white America. A brutal, sick, depraved, unrepentant, slave-trading, slave-holding nation. The Holocaust that our ancestors suffered is not the footnote in history that we get in this so-called educational system. The kidnapping, the enslavement, the torture, the rape, the robbery of a people defines who America is. Michelle Bachmann called it a stain on our history. Typical white female who wishes she was black. They're so envious of your beauty, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us. They're mad at God that they're who they are and you're who you are. Vicious, sustained hatred of a people. This is not something America did in some brief moment of insanity. This is who she is. White supremacy by any means necessary. It's not just their beginning, it's their middle, and it's how they're going out. So many of our people in the quest to escape this horrifying truth, because it is horrible, but you can't escape it. But many of our people on TV and the media, they love to say, it's not about race. It's not about race. It's about economics. It's not about race. It's about class. It's not about race. It's about politics. Wrong. It's not only about race, it is race. Question, white America, who are ripping your own limbs apart because of black families in the White House. If it ain't about race, why do you persist, as the Final Call newspaper points out? Make sure you get that paper and read that paper. Why do you insist, white America, on manufacturing a white Jesus? Why do you keep doing that? When it is a matter of record he was black, a matter of geography, a matter of genetics, biblical narrative, and anywhere you look where there's reality. Jesus was a black man. Period. And we move on. Don't ever sit in no black church with no white Jesus on the wall. about race, then why did you challenge even the basic citizenship of the first black president even into his second term? If it's not about race, why is Trayvon Martin dead? Why is Jordan Davis dead? They're dead because they are black. If it's not about race, why did you change the name of Kemet to Egypt and then say Egypt is not a part of Africa? Why you tell that silly, stupid, crazy, pathological lie? Why have you destroyed every work of art and architecture that shows the world that the fathers and mothers of civilization were black? If it's not about race, why do white women always have to play Cleopatra? And you know that's crazy. Yeah, the term nigger was repeated countless times in the film Django, because that's what it was in 1858 Mississippi and in 1958 Mississippi. And it took Lee Atwater, Reagan's campaign manager, to tell these crackers how ignorant they sound and told them, you're not going to win a presidential election calling them nigger. So start saying states' rights. Yeah. That's why they love Reagan. Because he wiped some of the filth off of them and stood them up. They're still dirty underneath, but he made them acceptable in society. So now they say the Tea Party. This is about spending. No, this is about the federal government interfering with how we handle our niggers. I just showed it to you with James Meredith. They had to send in the feds. So when they hear federal government, they start hyperventilating. Those are the nigger lovers that took our niggers. So you need to hear nigger 110 times in its proper context, so you'll stop saying it like a clown today. Just as Ann Romney said, stop it. One of the best nights of my life, election night. They were, like the Quran says, blindly wandering in their inordinate. We thought we won. The nigga won. Oh, my God. OMG. Wake me up when it's over. Give me a what is a Zortac with a... Oh, God, I need some Valium. I don't lift that and say, I'm saying that's a white woman thing. But our problem, and by the way, Samuel Jackson plays the turncoat. And he said when he took the role, he is so funny, he said, I want to be the most hated Negro in film history. And he is. Because when my husband and I went to see that movie, black people in that theater were talking to that screen. And Jamie Foxx is like a superhero. He came to get his black woman. You understand what I'm saying? Okay. But Samuel Jackson, I wanted to get up and run in the screen and grab him. And the key to remember is there's Negroes like him walking around right now. That's the lesson. That ain't no history. And pay careful attention to Leonardo DiCaprio's soliloquy. When he's talking, listen very carefully to him sharing the mindset of the white male, because that's just how they think. So go and see the film and remove that word from your conversation. It should be against the law to use that word. It's so ugly, it's so toxic. It's an offense to Allah, who created the heavens and earth with the word. Nigger is a word that inflicts pain and psychological death as quickly as an assault weapon inflicts physical death. Master R.I.P. Muhammad did not hesitate to employ this reminder in his intimate conversations with his student, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. In his Savior's Day address, 1973, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad recalls a conversation with Master R.I.P. Muhammad. Now, these are the words of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, quote, "I remember once he and I were talking. He says to me, he said, 'Brother, do you remember how they lynched that poor brother up there in Indiana over a false charge that he had raped a white woman? I think that was in 30 when that happened,' Messenger says. Then he goes on, 'I said, 'Yes, sir. I read about it.' He said, 'Wasn't that a shame?' He said the women's stood up on the tops of automobiles while the man was being lynched. They were yelling out to the lynchers, 'Kill that nigger.'" He goes on, "Think over it. How many times have we been mocked and criticized with such names in the South? 'Kill that nigger.' 'Teach that nigger a lesson.' I am happy to say to you, a Savior has been born." See, don't ever, as his teacher did not let him, don't ever forget our history. And how can you forget it when it persists in our face? And this is why Minister Farrakhan issued this statement. It is terrible to witness what we just witnessed in the slaying of these children. Every life has a purpose. Innocent life is more valuable in the sight of God. So when innocent life is sacrificed, what lesson should we learn from such a tremendous sacrifice, tremendous suffering, tremendous pain? Why should our president, a father, shed tears over the precious lives that were torn away from their parents and friends? It is to help a nation see that guns and the weapons of war cannot bring about the peace, the happiness and peace that was robbed from the people of Newtown. And hopefully, the President of the United States sending drones into Pakistan, Yemen, Somalia, Afghanistan, and other places, killing men, women, and children, and the word says collateral damage, and we go on killing. Could it be that these precious lives lost and the pain that it has caused every one of us who shares the pain of those parents and their loved ones who lost those precious children and the lives of the teachers who taught them? Could it be that God wants us to see that until you can feel the pain and suffering of that which has been inflicted upon them as the basis of a lie, and America's reach for the resources of that part of the world, then maybe you will understand that this may be chickens coming home to roost. For as thou hast done, the book says, so shall it be done unto you. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, servant to the lost found nation of Islam in the West. Brothers and sisters, I want to thank you, and I want you to remember that God has no record of raising committees. We need a leader who is present. Farrakhan is present. We need a leader who is courageous and bold, but biggest of all is receiving God's will in real time. That man is Farrakhan. Help him help us. May Allah bless all of us with the light of understanding. As I leave you in peace, assalamu alaikum. Thank you so much.
All praises are due to Allah.